to you again with another episode of Advocacy. Today is Thursday, October the 10th. Wow, time is flying. We're in fall now. So tonight we want to again welcome back Jessica and Michael Powell. They're from Audapt. And as you can see, we have the children with us. They're all going to introduce themselves, but I'm going to start off introducing myself. My name is Paula Armstrong. I'm the mother of two. I'm married. I live in the DMV. My son Jeremy is 24, and my precious Morgan Pop is 20, and she has multiple disabilities.
My name is Crystal. I live in Michigan. I am married with 5 kids, and they have varying abilities.
I think she might be.
Bunny,
Bunny,
yes,
you're
ma'am.
muted.
Bunny, you're muted.
So sorry, such a rookie mistake. I am Bunny. I live in Maryland. I'm married with 3 adult children, and I advocate for my special needs grandson, Grayson.
Okay. And before we start, I just want y'all to see the different outfits that Advocacy is coming out with. So if you haven't ordered, go on to advocacy.com and get your Advocacy gear. Jessica and Michael, come on, guys. We're so happy to have them back on here.
Thank you. I am Jessica Powell, and I'm mother of two, Jaleesa and MJ, and the wife to Michael.
Yep. And I'm Mike Powell, husband and father. This is MJ right here. You say hi, MJ. You wave, thumbs up. And
Good
this
job.
is Jaleesa here. Say hi, Jaleesa.
Those smiles and those beautiful PJs. Now, again, this is our second interview with Jessica and Michael. We really appreciate the first interview. I mean, you guys dropped so many jewels on us. We were just so, excited to meet your family and just to see what you guys are doing. How having MJ has changed your life in such a positive way. And with that being said, we definitely wanted to invite you on because I think we scratched the surface, but we all want more. So, with that being said, just tell us a little bit about Audapt. Just remind our listeners how Audapt came about and tell us a little bit about your family.
So Adapt came about. It was officially kicked off this year, but the year prior, MJ he was playing baseball at the Miracle League with the Eastern Seals. It's a special needs baseball. It's pretty much a league that plays out in Southfield, Michigan, and you know it was like his third year playing or so, and we wanted to kind of like just wear some shirts, and then wear his team hats and like just go out to the field. We just want to come up with something a little bit different to like match the hats. So we sat down and
we had the shoes customized.
yeah, like a couple years before we had like customized shoes. So I think that year we want to do the shirts. So we was just trying to think of something that ties with autism, and then what popped in our mind was autism adapting, because that's what we're doing. Our son was diagnosed, and every day we're just kind of learning a little bit more about what to do and the history of what's going on and so forth. So we came up with the term adapt. It wasn't a like official organization at first. It was just adapt, autism adapting, and we just put it on the shirts, wore it out to the field. And what we start to notice is that statement or that identifier helped. It kind of sparked conversations with other people, and it started to sharing. So once we had to, by putting that shirt on there, by putting that on the shirt and wearing it and being like open, to dialogue, we start getting more stories, and we were starting to able to, pretty much share our stories with individuals. And that's where it kind of started. So then the following year, which would be this year, is when we said, hey, maybe we can make this into an organization where you where it's a business set up for MJ first. He owned the brand, and then we could also help, nonprofits and kind of spread awareness. So that's like, as a quick story, that's kind of how it started. First, it was just a phrase on the T-shirt, and then once we kind of seen the feedback that came with that, that's when he want to watch cartoons.
Come on.
That's
We'll be
when
right back.
yeah, he's a little bit tired. We got them
And
for
this
about
is a
5 minutes.
real life version, guys. We're not trying to hide anything. This is real life. They may want to
Yes.
sit, but then they may say it's time for me to go. So we appreciate the time that they did give us.
There you go, Pasito.
Yeah, he
Thank
about
you.
to be out here. Jess will be back. But that's just kind of how it started. It was just like strictly just a phrase on a t-shirt.
I'm gonna give you my phone too. Give
Adapt,
me a second.
autism adapting.
Turn
That's
it-
what we're
turn it-
doing. That's what other individuals are doing. And then it, as time matured and we just started brainstorming, we said, hey, let's just put this, start this as a business to where it's a brand for MJ, but it also help out other people. And that's what kind of like led us into like our main goals, which is sharing our story and helping others share their story,
Stay in here.
and then bonding.
Love you.
And the bonding aspect came about with the Autism Alliance of Michigan. They gave us our first opportunity to be a vendor, and we didn't have no idea what to do as a vendor. All we knew is we had a slogan on a T-shirt, but they said, hey, they said, come out. We have a conference in Novi. You can get a vendor space. You can get a booth here, and we just went with it. We stopped like holding back and just start going with our gut and just like really like stepping outside of our comfort zone.
Mhm.
So, first it was a phrase on a T-shirt. We were connecting with people. Then we kind of, started a business, but didn't really. It wasn't concrete
Mhm.
how we were going to execute. We just knew we wanted to help people, and help our son down the line. So then, once we were able to do a vendor booth and start bonding with people even more, that's what like really start opening up what we can do and how it's helping people. When we went out to that autism, I think it was called Navigating Autism Conference, and it was March out in Novi, Michigan. That's when we had our little table. We had to order the tablecloth or the table cover like 3 times because we didn't know how to. A long story. Well, we had to like redo it 3 times and try to figure out shirts to press up and
We
what
were so unprepared for it, but we learned so much too from that first event and how it just touched everybody that we encountered that day. So it really was a stepping stone for us to just be like, okay, what we're doing is right. It feels right. We feel great doing it. And it impacts so many people in just the small amount of time that we were there. So
That's when you know the goal has been accomplished. And like you say, I mean, we're the same way with advocates say. Um, I think we're trying to come together to make sure that nobody goes through this thing alone. And I think what you guys said was so important to me is sharing your story. Sometimes people just need to hear your story. So you're right. It's like the behind the scenes of how we come up with the logo and how we come up with the name. It's like that's not as important as sharing your story and letting other people know that they're not alone.
yeah.
I
And
totally.
another thing with that, Mike and Jessica, is we on the outside, we don't get to see everything that you went through, all your struggles to get to that vending space and to be a vendor. All we see is you, what you're presenting, and your story. And that's what we love. We're going to always have stuff that's going to happen in the background, but
For
the
sure.
fact that you showed up even when you wasn't knowledgeable of it, you still showed up, and look where you are right now today. Now, how long ago was that first vending event?
It was in March.
In March.
Oh,
Yeah.
And look at
wow.
you in October. Professionals.
Come on.
Experts.
Yes.
Are you guys going to do it again?
Yep,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's they actually doing I think their first conference in Grand Rapids mid-November, and we signed up for that also.
Look at you.
There's
Come
gonna
on
be
now.
one in Grand Rapids in February. It's
That's
with
a different. That's a
yeah,
different
that's a
one. That's the
different one. It's called the what was that one, Crystal? I never.
Michigan Council for Exceptional
Yeah,
Children.
they're having a convention in February because I definitely want to participate in that as well.
But you said one's coming up in November. I like that because I like your shirt, Jessica.
Thank
Oh,
Yes,
you.
mom.
Yes,
yeah.
it's with the mom advocate.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Thank you.
Mike, let me see your shirt back up a little bit.
Yeah, we had a competition on shirts, but she
Okay.
everybody ordered her design over mine.
Well, come on.
But
I mean, I'm already peeping it when
Thank
I
yeah.
see
you. Thank
mom
you.
on it and
Mhm.
advocate, and then I think like we follow one another on social media,
Mhm.
and you had posted a video or a reel of your son, and it was the back of him, and I was like, that's a different shirt. I didn't see that one, so I couldn't see what the front says, but I could see the back, and it looks
Oh,
really
that's the
nice.
that was my design. That was the cloud font that we developed because I used to not so much about me. It kind of came about because I used to write like poetry. You know, I got raised when I was my mom played Motown music all the time. My father was a pastor, so I always like heard him preach, and then I heard my mom always singing melodies. I think she used to sing in the band back in the day too. So I used to write a lot. So I had wrote one poem that I forgot half of them, but I remember one that talked about just the importance of dreaming. So that's what kind of like came up with the shirt that he had on called the Dream Cloud, and just the importance of having imagination and not just going through your day by day. And I wrote it like probably a good 20 years ago, but I still remembered it
Wow.
and kind of developed that into the shirt, you know, and we kind of went back and forth for which one, and we ended up just like presenting them both out at the Hero Walk.
Oh wow.
I love that. Now, I know we talked behind the scenes a little bit before we got on, and sometimes our podcast starts way before we hit go live. But I know one thing that I had mentioned to you and Jessica was making sure that the parent is a vital part of that medical team because I feel that sometimes we downplay our contribution to our kids when we go to the medical appointments and stuff. And I know for myself, there were times that I was somewhat intimidated about going to the doctor and me having a theory and they just downplaying it. But one thing that I did talk about was us being subject matter experts on our kids. Now, I know for me, I do know Morgan. Grayson, don't know Grayson. I couldn't be a subject matter expert with Grayson. Couldn't be one with Roman. Couldn't be one with your kids. How do you advise these parents? I know you share your story, but how do you come at them from the medical side to encourage them to kind of be an advocate or spokesperson for their children, not just with the medical side? And I will say, I've mentioned the medical side, but how does that look on the school side and in your family and in the community? How do you advise parents in that way?
Um, it get kind of tricky on the medical side because it's when you speak to parents or like caretakers or individual, sometimes you don't know exactly where they are on their
Hmm.
journey.
Hmm.
So and I won't get too deep into some of it, but some people are at a point where it's like, who did this to my kid, or did this happen, or or this, or so it get kind of touchy when you start talking about the medical side. I think overall, from a just, I try to approach it, and I think we try to approach it just from like a well being. If you just, if I was to talk to somebody that I never met before going into like specific details, I would talk about just the overall. We need certain things in our, we're as a human being, we need certain things to function. And then sometimes when you're deficient in certain things, it can cause, you know, some conditions. Now, this is not related to, autism just in general. And I kind of like wrap up where I'm going here. So overall, when people say like vitamins and minerals and stuff like that, it's what we used to get more of back in the day, and now it's kind of like evolving. So when we, if I when we go into appointments and we talk to doctors and and things, and they start to recommend things, we want to do more than just like scratch the surface. We try to get a better understanding of what might be going on, but try to say it in a way where you're not coming off as if you're challenging them. You're not, well, if the doctor say you need to take this, why, or your energy and stuff can kind of throw stuff off, but if the doctor say, whoever, not even just the doctor, if something is recommended here, we ask a lot of questions so we can get an understanding and try to even scale it back to just the basic, some natural minerals, not to coincide what the doctor is saying, but we want to really understand what's going on, because at first when we was taking them in, um, when he got diagnosed, and then anytime we'd go back, because he also, he has like reactive airway too. So it seems like if we, when you take a kid, your child in that's autistic, you might be a little bit more frantic. So it some of the terms that we were getting when we were taking MJ in is that autistic kids typically this, or autistic is typically that, or typically autistic kid has asthma, or typically autistic kid has this, and it's just like that typically, or that just throwing that out. You're not really troubleshooting my child. You're just throwing out typically. And I'm pretty sure the medical world is big enough to where we can do some type of test to really figure out what's specific to him. So I don't know if I kind of confuse things too much. It's like when you start going to the doctor, or if you start from the medical side, if stuff start getting recommended, just don't be afraid to ask questions, and like do your own research in the background of what we need every day, what vitamins we need every day, what deficiencies, if it's in vitamin A or vitamin E, might cause certain issues, and just like do your own research, not trying to like diagnose or treat autism or treat certain conditions. Just, I would just say, do your own research to what we need on a daily. And then once you start getting a small understanding of how the body functions, when you go in, then you feel more comfortable kind of like going into details with the doctors of, okay, this was going on, but can you tell me more? Or have you, what I'm saying, do you have a recommendation for this or that? And I'm trying to like sugarcoat it and not go into like a lot of,
That's good.
Yeah, I can
That's
hear.
good
I can
stuff
understand that.
because that the doctors definitely say, oh, typically autistic kids suffer with this, that, and the other. That is so true. And I just took their word for it, and kind of agreed with them. And I really didn't push back to challenge the why, or is there anything that you can do that's specific to Grace? And that's interesting that you said that. I have to kind of think a little bit. Huh?
I told you.
And I think that's where that care, I think that's where that team, and I know for me, the older Morgan got, I wanted a team of doctors that felt as though my input was important. And I can honestly say, I did get that. It's almost like I handpicked her doctors. And it made it so that we were all on the same page, and it wasn't like I was challenging them or they were downplaying, what I brought to the table. So I do believe that that team of doctors, um, is so important, especially when you're bringing. I know for me, me and Crystal talked the other day. Morgan is in a different phase now. So there's a new phase coming about that I hadn't dealt with as much. So I'm doing my research. But when I bring it to the doctors, we're all kind of brainstorming. And some of them, some doctors will be like, well, I'm just going to I think this medication, blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, well, can we give it some time? I can honestly say I had that team of doctors with her. That'll say, you know what? Okay, I agree with you. Let's make a pact. Let's do this. Maybe after 3 months, if you don't see an improvement, maybe let's try this. And I'm like, I like that. So for me, I think it's hard now because she's 20 and now we're going on to the adult side.
Yes.
So it's like I find that so, I'm kind of cringing at the fact of having to build this team of doctors all over again because she's aging out of the pediatric side. But I do believe that team of doctors that respect you as a vital part of that team is so important when you're working with. And I don't just say just your autistic child. I say anybody.
Anybody,
When I
I
have a
agree.
doctor, I don't want a doctor just coming at me like, yeah, that's a scratch. Here, get this. No, I want you to be able to listen to me, because I don't just want to be shoved something without having the right to say, well, can we talk about this? Can you help me to understand it more? Because I've done my research, and in my research, I found that blah, blah, blah. I don't want to be discounted. I don't.
Yeah, I'm like that. I think I would like to share like with my youngest son Roman, like when there were like certain behaviors and stuff that I would might bring up to my pediatrician, she might give a response. It doesn't feel as satisfactory or what I'm looking forward to, but I will take it in. I'll see if this is something I can apply or not. But then I also took that information to like his team. If he was in speech, it's like I was going to speech just telling her like this, and this. Then I started finding out certain things might kind of relate to one another. And she might have a remedy like, oh, we do deal with that in speech. And I wouldn't have known that. Or I would go to occupational and say, this is what I was dealing with Roman. And I talked to the doctor about it. And he or she may say, well, we see this all the time, or this, that, and the other. And these are some things that you can try with this that it may help, or the ABA therapist. And I just learned that any team around my kid, I'm bringing it all out, because sometimes with Paula and I, when we discuss stuff, we learn certain behaviors or certain maybe issues or conditions that they may be dealing with. It's just, we find out information and it might have correlated from something else or something, and other people have information like that. Other people may say, this is something we see, this is something we deal with, and this is maybe something you might want to use, or they have resources. And I'm always trying to collect resources, whether it's for myself or to share with others of, because I think it's a spectrum, and it's not just one thing or another that typically says this is your child. So I definitely agree with that. And it can just get a little touchy, especially with your pediatrician and all. I can understand that. And sometimes some of our kids see neurologists or pediatric behavior specialists, or they just need a larger team than maybe just going to our pediatrician. I just don't always want to limit my resources, especially when it comes to our children medically.
I
No,
agree.
definitely, because when like the doctors, and not speaking like down on any doctors that we've been to, a lot of times when you go to the doctor, your main doctor they kind of check out the progress, but then they'll like give a script for you to see the next doctor. Like we had to get a script even for MJ to get diagnosed with autism. We had to get a script for him to get evaluated. But you're absolutely right. Like we learned a lot more, not demeaning anybody, but we learned a lot more once he went to therapy. When he went through ABA, OT, and speech, they have more of a frequency with children that they're dealing with. So those behaviors are, a lot of things. We gained a lot more knowledge from his therapy center.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. I mean, they're hands-on all day, and they see it across the board, different behaviors. They're apparently, the ones I've come across, they love what they do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they enjoy, and they show up every day. So, I mean, and I always respected their resources and their suggestions and what they observe, because how my kid act at home or behave at home or would even eat at home was different than what he was doing in a setting with peers or, just outside of the home. And to me, that made a difference too. And they have that eye, they have that observation, they have that data they're collecting to share with you. Like all of that plays a huge part in our kids and how they're progressing.
I would agree with that. And also with us as parents, because I don't know for you guys, but MJ, that was the first program that he was away from home, was ABA, and we were comfortable with that. We were comfortable because
She was comfortable.
The background. It wasn't. Yeah, I was comfortable. Michael walked into it, but it was because of the background that the staff had, and that they showed up, they cared, and the comfort that we just had knowing he was good. We got reports. And he was trying different stuff that we didn't know he would try there. And we knew he was very intelligent, but the stuff that he would do for them, we were like, whoa, he can do all of that. And they were like, yeah. So
Yeah, and
Wow.
they was able to explain a lot of the gave us more detail on stemming
sensory,
and
yeah.
some of his, the way he sat a certain way and how we should work on. And then they gave us the calming, like we didn't know, about the weighted blankets or the weighted vests or the big compression sock that you put over them. Like we weren't really
Different
aware of any of that.
frequencies. Like
Mm.
Hey, the OT speech, even the speech down to like it was, I don't know the term, but how you practice, when you helping them talk by just doing your mouth a certain way. So he's
Yes.
stemming like O and E and doing things like that. Like it was very beneficial. But that hurt
Yeah.
of leaving them there, that wasn't cool.
What was that?
The hurdle of letting them stay there without me there, that was cool. Like even yeah, that they had to send pictures all day for a while.
Wow. So
Nah,
I
how
thought
long
that
did
was
he
the worst.
stay?
he was like that for daycare too. MJ went to daycare. It was right up the street from him, and Michael would go and check on him on lunch. They're like, we have cameras. They had cameras up where you could check, on your phone where he was at, what he was doing. They're like, you got to stop checking up on him like he's doing fine. If you need anything. So
yeah.
that's just been Michael.
They call us
I
mother
know.
mothers. What do they call the fathers if that's not if they call us mother mothers?
Annoying. When I took
Helicopter dads.
yeah, when I took him, when we had to take him out of therapy to take him to school, I walked in there and I'm already looking for something to be wrong to be like he's not going here.
Well, that was a difficult
Yeah, and
transition
I
for
look at
both
the
of us.
locker and it say Michael on it, and I feel a tear jerking, but I'm like, okay.
Oh.
And I walk around the classroom, and it was just like nothing wrong. And then I look on the desk and see his name on the desk, and I just told the teacher like, I got to get out of here. I'm about to cry.
Oh.
She had to check on me like once I went home and send pictures the next day, but. Just trusting somebody with your child when he's not verbal.
Yes.
It's
Nonverbal
it's a
Yeah.
big stepping stone.
That's
Yeah.
a big
It
step.
is.
But it's a necessary step for
Mhm.
us
It
as well as
is.
for them. But you do have to get to that point because that's a lot right there. That's a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I was the same way. I probably wasn't as
Yep.
bad as Michael, but
I was
I mean,
volunteering in the classroom. I wanted to know what was going on, so I signed up to volunteer every chance I got.
We do that too. Like all
Yep.
of the field trips, we're at all the field
yes.
trips. We still have our days where just like, man, if he gets he had a communication barrier. It gets hard sometimes where it's just like, man, because he's nonverbal. Like, I really want to know what's going on. How are you feeling right now? So that's still a struggle, but not every day. It's not an everyday struggle, but it is something that we do struggle
one
with.
thing, because my daughter is nonverbal, and I do, this man told me one time before, and I thought about it. He told me, he said, talking is overrated. And I didn't think about that. But when he said it, I was like, I guess he's right. But you know what I thought about too? My daughter's nonverbal communication is awesome. I can always tell when she tells me in a sense when she's had a good day and when she's had a bad day. I can always pick up. If I call her school, I can always tell when she's had a bad day. So I think that, like you guys, Morgan is nonverbal, but I will say over the years, I've become to really appreciate her nonverbal communication, because those are cues that I can pick up, and I call them spidey senses. It's like, I'm like, my spidey senses go up, my antennas go up, and I'm like, something is not right. And once I get something in my mind, I can't shake it. So I will say that our kids are smart enough also to let us know when something is going on, but it doesn't negate the fact that we're used to hearing someone verbalize it.
Sorry about that. They're in there fighting over tablets, so
Real life, huh?
we can hear them in there fussing, but no, because you can't change like the body language. You can
Yeah.
say all you want,
Right.
but your energy, your body language, what you put off, is gonna tell a lot more than what you try to like accommodate with words. So it
Mhm.
is, it. I do think words are overrated. It, you
Mhm.
know, just energy, how you go about stuff, how you do stuff, tone and frequency, even
Yeah,
just coming, like all of that is just really important. And like that's one of the biggest things when we learn about MJ and how to go about, certain stuff. Like he pick up on it. Like you don't gotta holler. You could like look a certain way if he do stuff, and you could kind of tell that he know like maybe I shouldn't have did that. I could tell with MJ
absolutely.
that he might be afraid of something. He'll start doing certain things with his fingers and his hands. And it you don't always need words, and it yeah
Mhm.
you know
I agree. They say behavior are a form of communication. And
Mhm.
my oldest daughter, her speech is unintelligible. And that was what I had to go by, even not knowing what I know now. And I get to the last kid, and one of the first things I learned in ABA concerning him was um, to use less voice commands and
Yep.
more nonverbal cues,
Right.
and how they're given way too many commands throughout a day, like sit, come on, hold my hand, stop. We
Mhm.
just give them that all day long. And to me, I remember going in there saying, lady, where were you when I had the first kid? Like, it felt so relieving. Like, I might give it the first time, like, Roman, sit in your chair. And then the second time, I just like take him to his chair and sit him in. I'm like, point to his food. The third time, if he get out of his chair, I just look at him like you just said, Mike, and I'm just looking at him, and he knows I need to get in that chair. Because then, when our voices escalate and then the kids finally do it when we're like, stop,
hmm
that's not how you really want them to always respond to you, because then that's how they're going to always wait until you get there. And I don't want to get there. I don't
right.
want to get to the top of my voice. And so I started using a lot of nonverbal commands, and it helps. I think our parents did it too. Back in the day, they
Yeah.
gave us the eye and they looked at us, and whatever they needed done, you just figured it out. And it just felt like that's what I was giving my kids, and they followed through. And I think I personally think it was better for me to go off, like you say, those vibes, that energy, the tone. I
Mhm.
would look at my oldest daughter when she get off the bus. I could tell she had a good day, a bad day. If she's scared to get back on the bus, if something frightened her, like I can tell by her body language. So I'm kind of with you, Paula. That it really is. I think we're just used to talking, and so when I hear parents say that, like, I just want my child to talk, I think I understand what that parent means, but I wonder if it could be they just want their child to communicate.
I
we were
agree.
we were we were
Mhm.
overdoing it, and that's one thing we had to learn when he was going to like therapy, was that we was like talking like way too much or trying to dictate way too much, and it's probably just trying to like because he's nonverbal, like we were trying to over accommodate too much.
Mhm.
And they
Mhm.
had to teach us that when we had our weekly meets at the therapy center, is that we not even really like allowing him to have his voice, even though he's nonverbal. And honestly, like that's the only like tantrums that we deal with MJ, is that if we over accommodate and don't give him time to show his understanding, then that's when he start to get frustrated, because he's like, I got a voice, I
Yes.
Mhm.
understand. So if you
And I want
ask,
to be heard.
yeah, if you
Yeah.
ask me three things at once, you got to give me time to respond to each one of them. And that's one thing we had to slow down and do. And like in life, sometimes it's real hard to just slow down. It's just
Right.
always just bam, bam, bam. But you got to be able to slow down, because people always said it, like they ain't gonna be this small and time go fly.
Right.
Like I
That's right.
swear, I see it now. I like with my daughter,
Mhm.
man, she's growing up so fast. And MJ, like he's about to be 8, and it's just like, man, this
Wow.
time is flying. We gotta slow down a little bit.
What's some of the ways when you say over accommodate? Tell me
Mhm.
what do you mean by that?
You gotta like give him like over communicating,
Mhm.
um, asking for like, it's kind of hard to explain. Like
Asking him like if he wants something, you just know that you think he wants, like,
you know,
do you want a cookie? Would you like some water? And asking
Ah.
that back to back, And he was just like, okay, maybe I do want the cookie, but I don't want the water right now. But we're just like, okay, we'll just get both. We'll get it for you.
So you're just kind of telling him, okay, you can have this, you can have this, you can have it.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, you're frustrated. Now I'm going to just throw everything that I know that you'll like to just calm me down. With MJ, a lot of his frustration too is that he wants to be able to verbalize what he's trying to say. You know, it's more than just, yes, you know, he'll do something where like, okay, good job. But it's more like he wants to just be like, no, but, you know, I want more of this water, please, you know, maybe a little bit of ice. So it's more of what he wants to get through that he can't, that frustrates him. And then it really hurts us where we're just like kind of over accommodating, but just, you know, reassuring, like, listen, you know, we're here, it's coming. Just, you know,
I can see together. Especially
and a little bit of patience.
And when you have a sister there and you see her being able to communicate, and then
she talks and communicates too much. Way too much.
We had to learn. ABA taught us how to communicate with Grayson, and we were definitely over accommodating because I didn't know what he wanted. So I just gave him everything. Everything was on the table so that he could choose what he wanted. So they had to teach us how to communicate, how to read his gestures, his cues, and everything. So once we start doing that, we start using less words, less commands on him, because I used to do a whole sentence. Grayson, come here, sit down in this chair, the yellow chair. No, come over here, Grayson, go over there. And it was,
Grandma, I can see how that can be overwhelming.
I guess I can see that too. And I guess I just have a different story only because I feel like it's 4 kids in front of him. You know, so when it came down to if Roman wanted a lot of stuff, I was holding up stuff like I would hold up a fruit snack and then hold up the other thing. And and my look was like, take your pick, buddy, you know, and then it was like he went and took. So I wasn't just giving, it was like already I had certain things in place with the children. And then he had these older siblings, and, you know, and so I do share that with like, when people ask me certain things of like, how did you do with Roman or this? And I used to proceed with, you have to understand, he's the 5th kid. I already had certain things in place before I knew there was an issue. You know, I already was like, hey, everybody's cleaning off the table. You too, you know, you put your stuff in the trash too. And I don't know if he was just following his siblings or what. And then in the directness in my voice, like, let's sit, we're eating, you know, or something like that. And so my story could be a little different when it's like your first child. And your first child is usually like the child you're already learning certain things about. It's almost like the poor baby, the poor guinea pig child. You know, it is, you know, and your first child. And then you're trying to parent as a first-time parent. You're like being delicate. And then you're like, oh, this is, oh no. Oh, they want, I could see that Bunny, like giving them everything just to appease, to not see a meltdown, to not see an act out, to not feel that and then the anxiety that comes with it, like, oh my gosh, and I'm in the grocery store and they acting out, like what to do. I don't know what, I'm telling you, I don't know. God gave me the strength to get through those years, you know, but I don't know. I just think I was like, all right, well, I guess we shopping done. Leave that cart. Let's go. And we just walked out the store, you know, I don't know. I did some weird stuff. I kind of went with the flow for a while. You know, I just didn't know what I was working with, but I was working with it. You know, I'm like, I just was like, I was going with the punches.
What is it when you're learning by the minute? And I mean, sometimes, like you say,
I had to learn.
But when you slowing down, I like that. I think that's good advice, to slow down, because the slow down gives you chance to kind of like, you know how like with your other kids, you're like, oh yeah, I could do this, that. But it's like with the slowdown, it's like, I gotta let Morgan lead me with this one.
Yep.
Because if not, then I'm gonna start having meltdowns.
I was having meltdowns. I was, because I was like, why isn't he listening? They was like, Grandma, it's too much. Just tell him to sit. Come, sit. Motion him. Point to the chair. And I was like, no words. She was like, no words, no words. I was like, okay. And I'm looking at the little boy like,
no, Bunny, you're still yelling at him. That was a silent yell.
Right. I'm looking at OT. I was like, he's not listening to my mouth. She was like, Grandma, it's your face.
Yeah,
Giving the
your
wrong
nonverbal.
energy.
Your nonverbal is not good.
But
Right,
I
because
got
like what
there
Mike
though.
was
I
saying
got there.
earlier,
I got
Mike,
there.
when
I had to step out of my level of understanding how
yes,
to use words and what those words meant. When I gave a command, I wanted you to follow that. So I had to really kind of like reprogram the way that I think, talk, and respond
Mhm.
to what is Grayson need? How is he interpreting what I'm trying to say to him, my gestures and all of that? So I had to step out of this world and step and live into Grayson's world. So that's where I'm at. I live in Grayson's world. He's normal. It's the rest of us that's messed up.
I love that.
You know what? And it's crazy you say that because like once you take that ideology
Yeah.
and then you apply it towards work and everything else, you kind of start looking at stuff different.
Completely
You
different.
you're not so quick. And like that's what really changed because you know, being an engineer is fast paced. It's it's boom, boom, boom. It's real strategic. But once, like you said, once we start living in MJ's world and that approach of more understanding and being patient, it changed your approach even
Mhm.
outside of that. It really kind of make you a better person. Not trying to
Yep.
say anybody was a bad person,
And
but
I think you said that with the
Because you just
last
have
show. That's
patience.
where
You
we
have more
left
patience
off.
with people.
yeah,
Yeah,
You have way more
definitely.
patience, and like
Yep.
the way
Mhm.
that you would handle certain situations, you take a pause and you think of it. You handle it
yeah, because
completely
with
different.
mental health and all that, you go to work. I don't know why this is happening or why this person is approaching me, but all I could do is just be patient, listen, try to figure it out, or just take myself out of the situation. But you don't have to match like someone's energy. You don't have to
Right.
go there, which sometimes you might want to go there, because somebody hit a nerve, but it just make you have a more holistic approach of like how you deal with everybody. And I think having a special needs kid or having an autistic child or just being around that it can push you to look at stuff differently and
It changes
kind of
you.
approach. Yeah,
It
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 definitely
does.
definitely
approached me.
does.
Absolutely.
It
It changes
definitely does.
everything. The way you live, the way that you visit the store, you visit your family. Your whole world changes. It's not just I go on a diet just to lose a certain amount of weight. No, this is a lifestyle change. It's a
Yes.
forever change
Yes.
and a forever adjustment. And I tell people, if you're coming into my world, Grayson is my world. So you need to adjust so that you can fit in over here.
Yeah.
If not, you got to stay out.
And
Yeah.
once you start adjusting, like me
Mhm.
and Krista was saying, something Maureen came out the blue with something new. I'm on the researching the other day, sending it to Crystal. Once you get adjusted, here comes another adjustment. So
Mhm.
the thing is, I think just like everybody goes through their different phases, so do these
Yeah.
individuals. And I think when you don't have, I think that the hardest part for me is not really having the communication to go along with it. But I
Mhm.
will say that was an eye opener when the guy said talking is overrated. And I don't know about you guys, but some of my best days is when I could just sit back and not say nothing and just
Yeah.
have a peaceful day. You know what I'm
No
saying?
words is good though, Paula, but I think my concern is what did they do to you today in school? Did something happen that
He
he
would
can't
tell you,
verbally say?
but
So
you've in
I
tune with
watched
him.
everything. I'm watching the cues. I'm
But
watching,
you're in tune with him, Bunny.
attitude. Yeah, I'm watching that. And I'm like, I just wish he can come home and say, Grandma, that teacher hit me. Or, well, let me back up. Teacher's not hitting. Let me back up.
Yeah.
Grandma, I fell down or somebody a student pushed me down or something on the playground. I just wish that I could hear words if he's been harmed.
Yeah.
That's
I
Yeah.
it.
understand
Everything
that.
I'm with
else,
you.
I think
It's
I
that
can
type of
handle.
world we're living in.
Yeah.
I understand that, but I can see just how we're just talking about verbal communication. And I just want to just put it out there because I just have a range. I have young adult, teen, well, now it's just teens and young adults. And, there are times where your teen or young adult doesn't express
Yeah.
the things that they're going through on the inside or what they experienced elsewhere. And you really have to
Drag
really
it out.
be honed in with
Mhm.
with your child and their body language, their demeanor, how they're responding, you know? And so I think it's a beautiful thing when children can express. And I think it's a beautiful thing as a caregiver, parent, when you can be like,
Sorry.
Something's going on.
something's going on. Oh no.
We
We
just got,
know y'all are parents.
yeah, we just got over a little bug too, so I had to.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I
So
do
I
want
just
to
think
ask.
that, yeah.
I do want to ask Audapt. Tell me, how do you, when you come in contact with parents that are just starting this journey, what is your advice? What is your help to them? Because I know you tell them your story, but tell me what else. Like if I'm a parent in Michigan and I see this podcast, I want to know how can you all, what can you tell me to get through this process? You know.
I would say definitely start tapping into the resources that's available.
Community.
Don't sit in isolation. Like don't go crazy with the Google searches and stuff like that. Just I would definitely say start, looking into resources. If your child hasn't been diagnosed, and I know, diagnosed could kind of seem like a negative term, but once your child do get that diagnosis, that's going to open up doors to where you have better access to some resources that would be very expensive, just straight out of pocket. I mean, it's expensive regardless, but I would say first, start tapping into resources, start doing research, but definitely look for like organizations out there. And then I would also say, just if you can, I know it's not easy all the time, to connect with somebody, try to find like support groups of people that you can like talk to, because when people come to our table, they just want to talk. We barely even get to the point of like actually getting into resources with people. People just want to just talk about their journey. They just want to connect with somebody else that's been on the journey, just starting the journey, or it's like almost a safe haven for you to just talk about like what's going on in your life. So,
That's good.
yeah, like, even if it's therapy, whatever it may be, if it's a support group therapy or whatever, just so you could kind of just, relieve a little bit of that pressure, relieve a little bit of that steam, what you might have been going through. And that might be the first step. And then at the same time, you got to start, look into some of these therapies and some of these areas and resources that could like help you out on your journey. What you think, babe?
I would say to never give up. That before Audapt, we were isolated. We felt alone. My biggest advice when I go out with my Audapt, I feel like I have a shield on because I connect with somebody every time. Whether it's somebody, a family member, a friend, a loved one, I connect with somebody, and that makes me happy. Like I have a bracelet on, and I'll take my bracelet off. Like here, follow us. I'm really big with connecting, and if you are isolated, like look up events that are sensory friendly, that you won't be the only person with an autistic child.
I love that.
That's something that I wish we would have done, but going in and I don't know, I guess that first little shop we did was really
with the one in March.
Yeah,
because
getting out with MJ and then looking up stuff like that's just sensory friendly. And they just said right off rip, like MJ started stemming, and I'm like, let me. And they're like, no, like he is in a safe spot. Like this is a safe area for him. So I'm like, wow, finally somebody, that could relate to everything that we go through, we struggle with.
Because
it's more now.
Yeah.
It's more events now because Morgan is 20. There weren't a lot of those events out there. So you had no choice but to feel alone. But I like that. If you can get them somewhere where they feel like this, what was the place we were, our activity center, a place of their own, a place where they feel like, what is it, like Cheers, the Cheers theme. The Cheers is like, where everybody knows your face. It's kind of like that. Yeah.
Because when you don't understand, like what Crystal was talking about with the grocery store, it was something about when we walked into a certain grocery store or store, if they had the heaters that, you know, if it's wintertime, they try to warm you up before you go in, it overstemmed MJ.
Mm-hmm. Lighting
So
would overstem.
so we would just walk away. But this before we kind of understood what, you know, what was stemming, what was things like that. So we would kind of be really discouraged to do things because we weren't knowledgeable and we didn't tap into some of those resources to understand what might be going on with them. So it, you know, it took us going through that therapy, learning more about them to where we knew how to handle certain things in the grocery store. So we didn't starve to death, you know, and not get no food. But
So
we
you
had to
just
go
didn't
through that.
leave, but you were like, now we have like almost like a plan of action when something
Yeah.
like this happens.
Yeah.
And now he's good. Like he goes into any store now. Like before Michael said, it would be certain stores, but stores now are getting really good with sensory hours.
Yeah.
Our biggest thing for Audapt is awareness. Spreading awareness is like one of the biggest things because people just need to be educated.
And is that what
Absolutely.
ODAP does? Is that what ODAP does? Because I know we've never really,
On that.
I know we
Yeah.
said how it started, but what exactly does your LLC do? Tell the parents.
So we really focus on like three major things. So sharing is like what we doing now. Sharing is like when we, you know, connect with people out in the public and just sit down and talk with them. It's kind of like off the grid, but it's what we prize mostly is just talking with people,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's through DMs and things like that. We share our story, you know, and we talk to as many people as we can. And then awareness. The A on these shirts right here, MJ, he drew this A. Sorry, I can't because it's reversed on the screen. But the A, he drew that A and then we digitized it and put it into the logo. So I feel like not 100%, but you have like Autism Month, the Awareness Month, but then throughout the year, I feel like the awareness might kind of dip a little bit, you know, with the puzzle piece shirts and things like that. So we want to keep it in front of people's face.
Mm-hmm.
So we do sell these accessories like our bracelets, our shirts. It's a business set up for MJ. So we donate some to nonprofits and then we also he owned the brand. So just down the line, if the workforce is not that, you know, inclusion friendly, then he owned his own business. But Adapt, we share our story, connect with people, we push awareness, and then we push and try to promote bonding events. So like the events at the Autism Alliance of Michigan when they have the tables, there's a great bonding event coming up October 19th with Autism in D, which is like Autism in Detroit. They have a fall fun festival, which is a dance, and they're going to be giving out headphones and things to children or anybody on the spectrum. So I think that's like the major thing is just sharing, pushing awareness, and just pushing people to bond more and like come together to these community events so you could, you know, get more information.
Yeah,
That connection is
Yeah.
important.
is
Yeah.
everything. The connection is everything because a lot of people feel like they're alone.
Yep.
They
Everybody.
do. And I love that you're saying that because with the connection, when we last had you guys on, Mike shared like some really good information, just even how he shared his story. And Mike, I always refer people back to that video, especially when they're like, you know, the dad feel otherwise. You know, the dad has different feelings. And I always say, you know, well, we have fathers on our podcast. And there's one particular that I always try to steer them to. And it's when you guys were on last time. And so it still comes up, Mike. And I wonder if do you hear this? You too, Jessica, do y'all hear this in the community? Because of course I hear it from the mom. I hear, I'll say the female caregiver that the father or the male figure in the house does not want a label. They do not want, it's nothing wrong with their kid. You know, and I just want to know, like, when you hear that, how do you respond or to help? Because I think it's different coming from, me, or a female. Sometimes they're like, hey, they're trying to ease their spouse or the father's like, no, I don't think that's the case. No, you know, and I just feel like you spoke so well before. And how can you say it? Because it still comes up. And I just want to say, I'm just privy to like in our community of
Yeah.
how it comes up, but I know it comes up across the board. And as a father, like, what could you share with men to help them in a situation like this? Because we all know, and I believe you guys will agree, early intervention is very important.
Very much.
Yeah, I
Sometimes we
think
don't do that.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, my nose sniffling from a cold. Y'all about to really get a sniffling and get me emotional
Yeah.
now. But I think I think as the dad or a man, and not like choosing roles. I think the dad, husband, you feel like you supposed to fix everything and you supposed to be the protector. I I think, and I said 100%. I think sometimes when you go through things like a child with autism, I think the dad could put like the guilt on his shoulders that he might have let his family down, and that might put him in denial. Because when people start talking about what might have caused it, you start thinking back, oh, why did I do this or why did I do that? But overall, the painted picture, and it's different in every household, is that the dad is like the leader, and the dad is like the strong person who could fix it, fix everything and work on stuff. So I think that some fathers are in denial, just because they might feel like they might have like failed their household, and it's not true. When I look at autism is just a word. Yeah, it's a condition and things like that, but everybody have things that they need to work on, whether it's medically diagnosed or not. Some people have depression, some people have physical things. It's all type of things that we have to accommodate out here. So autism is just another one of those things. It's not a failure, it's not nothing. It's just a different way of doing stuff. No person does is everything exactly the same. So it's not, I would just say, man, don't look down on yourself. Don't look like you might have failed, or don't be too judgmental. We all got things, we need to work on. And it's autism is just one of those things to where you just kind of make that shift and make that audible, to help out your household, because even as a man, we got things we need to, work on and try to get through. So that's my suggestion, is that don't look at it as you failed. Don't look at it as something down. Don't look at it as something like this extra extreme diagnosis or whatever you want to call it. It's just something else that you're just working through, and that's it.
I like
I
that.
definitely, yeah, I agree with that. Now I know we were told that we needed the diagnosis so that we can get the resources and help. So it's nothing wrong with the label. The
Yeah.
label helps to move forward with resources and things like that to get that help. So I appreciated having the label, but also I had family members that did not want to label Grayson, but I
But
understand.
is it a label? It's a diagnosis.
Yep,
And you don't introduce
yep,
them as, hey, this is autistic Grayson. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
mhm,
You
you're
don't say
right.
this is autistic MJ. So it's not
yeah.
a label.
I think people need to understand that.
They
I
need
Yep,
think,
to
and that
understand
they
it's a
limit their
diagnosis.
resources too on
Yes.
Yeah.
that. Like
absolutely,
it's such a huge door that you open with that, with just
absolutely.
endless resources.
That delayed, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but that's what delayed that with MJ, because he had speech delay when he was like 18 months, and he was going through speech therapy. And I said real quick, and once he turned 3, and this is speaking from experience, once he turned 3, they said, okay, we can enroll him in the full program, but it has to be labeled as special education. And we went into a state of denial, and we unenrolled him because we were scared. And we said, our
Mhm.
child is only 3. How do we know he need this now? And we went into that state of denial, which a lot of fathers might be going through. But then we had to re-educate ourselves and start getting them diagnosed and getting them the right resources.
We
So
would have families saying,
yeah,
it'll come, don't worry. And then it was just
Yeah.
like,
yeah,
Mm.
well, we talked to our Pete, and we're very fortunate to have a good Pete. Their pediatric is really good for MJ and Jaleesa. So, um, Yeah.
It's last thing, I promise. I keep saying last thing. But if we want to just use it, if everybody wore the label of what might be wrong with them, my whole shirt would be patched up like a Boy Scout.
I love it.
Come
Yeah.
on.
It's
Tell 'em,
more
Mike.
diagnosis. Like if we want to really research and call out labels that's wrong with all of us, we don't want to face that. So let's not treat autism no differently.
I love it.
Absolutely.
And then
Absolutely.
deny our child, to deny them what they need, whether it's
Yeah.
a tutor. My son was neurotypical, but he needed a tutor. So do I just not get him a tutor? You know what I'm saying? So I agree with it. I look at it the same way.
Yeah.
I do.
We would have never got ABA. So like just
Absolutely.
that help
Yep.
there, we would have not, and it's not like for us. It really, really helped MJ. MJ loved going to school. Like he enjoyed doing it. He woke up ready for his book bag, like, let's go. When they didn't have school, you know, he's just like, what do we do now? So that was really beneficial for him as well for us. But, you know, it's just doors that get opened. And I don't, like you said, it's not a label. Like we can't look at it like we're labeling them. Like, no, this is a good thing. They're getting the help they need.
They're getting the help. It is
that we need for them.
Yes.
And we're getting help. And we're getting help.
They're getting help too.
I
look at it. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Crystal.
I was just saying, I look at it as services that's being provided in addition to my kid being in school to help close that gap so that they can, you know, between them and their peers, to help them get closer and closer in that gap. And they just needed additional support and services, and they qualify it through this program, you know? And so that's how I look at it for my kids, is like, it's not a label, it's services provided through this education system to help my kid close that gap between him and his peers as best as possible. That's why we're advocating, you know, to get them to where they need to be, as successful as they can be in life in general. And I think if we broaden our horizons and not think that, you know, I think that will help.
And again, awareness. That's why awareness just needs to be the biggest on everybody's agenda for those that say just that simple, like, I don't want them to be labeled. That is just people that are uneducated on, you know, on our everyday thing and what we go through, you know, as parents.
Right.
So
absolutely. Another thing was important to me was Grayson had the diagnosis, the medical diagnosis, but I needed him to be coded in the education system as autistic. So that's important. And I just was telling a family member that it's important that you have the medical diagnosis, plus he's recognized in the school system, in the education system as well. It's important.
That's a great point.
That is a really good point, because MJ's got an aid at school too. So
and we need
the services are different.
The services are different. Not every school has it. So having that would put you in the right direction as to what school would be beneficial for your child.
Absolutely. Like getting to the right school for sure. Because if they're not diagnosed from the educational side, they could be in a school that can't provide the services that they need.
Because that's what's happening right now. It's just labeled as special needs. I'm like, no, it's autism. He's autistic, so there's a difference there.
It's a different learning curve. So you could, you know, even the child that is put in a situation like that would be, you know, difficult for them to learn.
Well, I know we have to close
this
out.
Has been great.
Yeah, one thing that we did not talk about, and I want this to close out our show, is we never talked about Jessica and Mike in your marriage. What do you all do to, I know it seems like you all
it's bringing tears to him.
You all seem like a great team. I want this to close out the show. How do you advise other parents, other couples coming together? Because as we know, it can make or break you. What advice can you give to these parents to get through the weathering the storms with that special needs individual? And how do you work together to keep that, to be as parents, but also to be husband and wife, because before the
Yes.
children, you all are husband and wife. I like that smile, Jessica.
I
Yeah.
think
So
we
can you guys give some of these couples some advice on how to keep the fire burning as a couple, but also how to take and work together to become the parents that these kids need as well.
yeah,
Communication, I would say, is really big. Step back and like the timeout, like he had said before, like just take a timeout and read the room. Like, okay, this is a pretty intense. Let me just redirect this. But I would say communication.
yeah, and we got our own individual goals, and then we got our common goals with the household. So, we patient with each other. We try to, we make sure each other gets enough space, but we stay in communication, and the goals of the household is what we work towards. So as a parent, you always go sacrifice. You always go make adjustments to make sure the kids are straight, but we communicate a lot. We talk a lot. We're not afraid of talking about the stuff that's bothering us, which that took a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Jess ain't want to talk. I talk a lot, but she probably would want to give me those faces like what we were talking about. And then I had to kind of like push to say, hey, did I say something that offended you? Or hey, I apologize if I said stuff a certain way, or am I saying stuff a certain way that's like dictating the conversation? We always like, we talk a lot and we express a lot, and and we just, I think that's the biggest thing, is just staying in communication and just having common goals. And
Feelings too. Like I would say, having a special needs child, feelings are all over the place. Whether we've missed sleep, we can't even get on sleep. So, the sleep that's missed, just knowing like, okay, this is a bad situation, just taking a deep breath and not making it worse. But, I see you're having a rough time. You step away, let me go in. Like,
yeah,
kind of like
we kind of
tag.
work together like
Yeah,
that.
like tag. Okay, you go. So the tag thing really works so that one doesn't get too overwhelmed in situations. We take turns going to the grocery store. We go as a family. A big thing is it's really family orientated with us, because that's all we have is each other.
Yeah, and it's not like a role thing, like the man, you know, woman always do the grocery shopping. It's like, no, we work. If she's tired, I'll go to the grocery store. If she needs certain stuff, I'll go buy it. And I don't have no problem doing that. And that I can't do my daughter hair, but everything outside of that, yeah.
You
And then
can. It just ain't gonna look like it look when Jessica do it.
she do it quick too. And then as far as the fire, my wife is so beautiful inside and out. It ain't.
Come on.
It's not.
Yes.
I love her so. Like I love her so much that it's not really. I ain't gonna wipe it now. It's not really nothing that could like put that fire out. Like I love Jessica
Love it.
a lot, and she's such a good
Aw.
person, and she's such a kind person, and it's nothing that could like put that fire out. So
I love
That's
it.
That's
awesome.
beautiful.
That is
Just like that
beautiful.
picture y'all posted.
I know. I'm looking at the pictures behind. I love
Thank
it.
you.
I love it, man. When I tell you guys, I can see you all in the near future coming back
I
for
tried to
part
hold it a
two.
little bit. I tried to hold
Oh, that is so
it.
sweet.
I
Man,
really
I
love
love
it
it
though.
for you guys. I do. I love the real conversation. I'm gonna close out. I'm
Yes.
gonna do my little close out. I love the real conversation. I love the purpose of Audapt. I love the fact that your kids came in. A great thing is to see kids just at peace at home, comfortable, happy. Just knowing their needs are met, just knowing that the couples, their needs are met. I mean, you guys are a beautiful family, and
Yeah.
I just
Thank you.
a lot of families need to see this because
Yes.
they don't need to they some people believe that once your child get diagnosed that you're ready to kill each other and point the finger like you gave the sale that caused this, or and I just thank God that you guys are the epitome of what a great family is. And I think people need to see this, and people need to know it's possible. You don't have to, split up and go your separate ways or start hating each other because the child that you envisioned you have and didn't come about. But guess what? When you have that when God blesses you with a special package like that, that means so much to me because he couldn't give he like my Morgan Pop, he couldn't give her to everybody. She'd be out on the highway somewhere. But I thank God that, you guys were, given that special package. You're two special packages, and you
Yes.
guys are weathering the storm, and you're doing a great job. It's a great
Yeah.
example.
Thank you.
I love having you guys on here. I would love to have you all again because it's just real talk.
It
Real talk.
is.
Thank
So
you.
Crystal and Bunny, tell me what you
It
got to say.
is. I love that Jessica was able to join us this
Yeah.
time.
Me too. Thank
Yes.
you.
And I love that I think that your family is very attractive in so many
Mhm.
ways. Like your spirit, when I first met you guys at an event and just talking with Mike and Jessica, I got a snippet of her because she was with the kids, and then having you guys on for even a second time, I could see how people can come and just because you're easy to talk to, you're very vulnerable, you're honest
Mhm.
with your feelings. Like when you just said communication, and then Mike said how you communicate, like that is so important for couples because they don't know how to communicate. Like he's saying, I asked her how she feel. Like, oh my gosh, like that needs it. I think sometimes we don't think it need to be said, but it does. And I want you guys to know we hear you, and someone else out there, you're blessing them too. So I really appreciate you guys
Thank
spending
you.
time with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It has been a pleasure meeting you two. And Mike, it just warms my heart the way you spoke of your queen.
Mm,
And the fact that you guys are doing this together, it's not one sided, it's not she's taking 80% and you just sitting back watching TV.
right.
You're in this. And I so appreciate that because we don't hear that a lot. And I'm almost certain that there are other men out there that's doing life with their family, with their special needs kiddos. But to know that you are one that I get to meet, I applaud you, sir. I really do. Jessica, you got a good one here. He loves you,
I
and
do. Thank you.
I mean, it just it really it did something to me to know that as a man, as a black man, that you are in this. You are caring for your son with special needs. You're caring for your family, and you're doing it together as a team. I love that. I love when you guys can come together as a team because it's sometimes it's always mom is doing a lot and
Mhm.
dad is doing just a little, but to know that you
That's
guys
nowhere
are
the case
with
here.
each other, you right there. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing,
Thank
for being
you.
vulnerable, for just allowing us to just step into your world. And I'm sure that you have put an impact out there in the world of possibilities and everything else so that we can see that it can work. Marriages really can work when we have challenges. Um, I thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
I look forward to us all meeting one day. I mean, if you're in this
Absolutely.
area, we in your area, I mean, I would love to just meet you guys and meet, the
To
family
the
in
side. Okay.
person. I would. I definitely would. We got them
Okay.
saying goodbye to us, or they still fighting over the computer.
My phone
Now
died.
one of the devices went out, so he mad now. But
So they're like,
Oh,
it's a wrap.
yeah, it's a wrap. Well,
Phone
you
died
guys,
and it's past its bedtime. So
yeah.
Mhm.
thanks again. I appreciate it. And tell the
Mhm.
other two, well, what I guess they like this. We done for the night. But they did give us some time, so we're grateful for that. So again, we just again want to say thank you so much, and we look forward to meeting you one day in person.
likewise,
Likewise.
yes.
All right. Well, you guys have a great night. Everybody, we will see you back for another episode of Advocacy next Thursday. Everybody have a great night and a great weekend.
Right.
Thank
Good.
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.